Welcome to 3D.sk. On this site you can find thousands of images of whatever you need, from male and female characters, costumes, animals. We also have 3D scans, textures, texture maps, street photo reference, studio photo reference, and many more, which can all be found on this site. Welcome to the next tutorial. So we're carrying on from the last tutorial where we merged all the parts together. And now we're just going to go over some refinement. I'd like to start off this episode with the back anatomy. So first of all, we're going to go in and we're going to start using some light strokes of the brush clay build-up, which is BCB, to just bring out these muscles a little bit more, give it a little bit more definition. So we can start off by doing this muscle, which is the trapezius, which will go something like this. Just light strokes. Maybe we can just look where the deltoid is. We kind of want to make an indent there so we can see what's going on. And we can go like this for the trapezius. Kind of just building up some form with the brush clay build-up, because that's exactly what that brush is for. Let's smooth this out a little bit. Use our brush trim dynamic to kind of clean it up a little bit maybe. Use brush dam standard to kind of make a slight indent just to give us an indication of where it is in case it disappears due to smoothing. Use it again here to make this shape that it has. Kind of has this weird kind of diamond shape here, and then it comes back down. Just going to smooth that out. Just use a little bit of build up here. Alright. So I'm happy with that muscle. Now we're going to go to the muscles here. Forgive me if I don't remember the names. So we're just going to go here, just kind of build up the deltoid a little bit to make it a bit more obvious. Use a bit of brush clay build up again. You can always tone it down a bit later with brush trim dynamic or the smooth tool. Now we're going to make a muscle here. And there's a little bit more around here, kind of like this. Okay, we can use brush dam standard to kind of show what's going on exactly here a little bit more. Okay. Let's bring that out a little bit there. This muscle kind of behaves kind of like this a little bit. Goes into here and it forms that back part of what you see here. Use a brush clay build-up, BCB, and Alt to go in. The armpit, show that muscle there. For me right now it's a little bit too out, so I'm just gonna maybe move it in a little bit, maybe use Alt to bring it out. Let's have a look at it from the side view. I'll do this a little bit using Alt. Okay, looking a little bit blobby, but we can fix that later. Right now we're just kind of mapping out the muscles. And now we get a muscle that goes like this, and it curves round, and it goes to the bottom. I mean the top of the hip bone. It goes underneath here. It's kind of a shape like this. Some people like to use the same direction as it is in the muscles, so if we're going to do that, they would all be more or less this direction. But I don't see the need most of the time. And then it would be kind of like, it'd kind of be going like this. And this connects up here. Somewhere around here. And then your ribcage muscles start. Just going to use my brush trim dynamic to just kind of cut this down a little bit. Kind of make a form out of it. Use brush dam standard to kind of signify that muscle a little bit more. I would like that to be a bit more pinched at the end, so I'm just going to use the pinch tool, which is BPI, to kind of pinch the muscle in a little bit. Same for the deltoid as well. Brush down standard again. Okay. Would like that to be a bit more kind of like so. And now we're going to try and work out where exactly we want the hip. Just turn on floor for a sec. See that her bottom is about here. If I just turn this to the side, the hip is around here. So let's just do simply like this. We can turn down the draw size and use Alt to kind of bring it out, and we can work out roughly where the hip is, which is kind of like this. I'd like it to be a bit more angular. So we can smooth that out a little bit. Just keep it in, not too smooth. We will refine it later. And now for the gluteus maximus muscles and minor and major. Just gonna make the muscles right now. Then move it down to the leg. Don't want to go into the leg just yet. We kind of curve around like this. Pause to show the direction of them. This is kind of how the muscles would be. They would come from inside here, move out, and then curve downwards into the leg. And there's usually this is where they kind of like all go to around here. Might use brush clay tubes just to kind of split them up a little bit. So you can see what's going on. You can go back with brush clay tubes just to show you like the direction of the muscles. So this kind of goes round, curves, and then it kind of goes like this. And this one goes in all sorts of directions, so you get the first one that's kind of like this, and then you get like, I'm going to have to make my brush even smaller, get smaller strands, kind of going like this, and then the last ones kind of go like this. For these ones, this one goes upwards, so I'm just going to make my brush a lot smaller. These go kind of upwards, and these ones curve like this. Move this up a little bit, and you get the point of what you need to do. Just look at reference and figure out where all the are. And as you can see right now, it's just turned into an anatomy tutorial. I'm just showing you what you can do to kind of help yourself figuring out the anatomy, and if you do this enough times and study enough, you'll be able to memorize them. So BDS, it's a lot more like this around here, and it's a lot less when you go up here. Did that a bit too much, but it's fine for now. I'm going to go back to brush clay build-up and use this tool to kind of build these up where I want them. And this muscle, obviously, the external oblique comes in. Kind of losing the hip here, so let's just put it back in a little bit. And then of course for the legs, it's almost like two tubes that run down here. Kind of do this kind of thing. Imagine two tubes. And then you get that little weird bit at the back of your leg. And then you get these two muscles. Just kind of run like this. Obviously the direction is here, but it's a lot harder to build up form that way. And then they connect to a tendon. Your Achilles tendon. Just kind of like so. Also draw it on there. That also kind of is part of your heel. So we've got some anatomy going on for the back. And what I'd like to do is I'm just going to go over and just smooth it out a little bit. As you can see, it's looking quite horrible and blobby. But what we can do is, using what we've got, actually we can go back and we can use brush dam standard this way just to bring back these lumps and bumps that we've created, giving ourselves reference. I probably wouldn't do this much if I wasn't doing a tutorial, because I'm just showing you where all the muscle groups are, so you can get a good idea for the back. Yeah, use this tool to just kind of flatten them out and make them into like individual forms that aren't too projected or extruded in a way, as that wouldn't be too good. As apart from someone who's extremely athletic, you wouldn't see that much of a muscle there, as much as we're doing here anyway. Especially for the bottom, I want to really bring that down a little bit more. Just using the trim dynamic to just kind of bring these forms back down a little bit. Kind of shaping them. Generally, this is the way I like to sculpt. I like to sculpt as if I'm laying on clay. I could just go back to brush trim dynamic. Trim this down a little bit. Maybe go to the rib cage. Make it a bit more of an angular shape. Here, clean this up a little bit. I'm imagining I'm using almost like if you were sculpting for real, almost like I'm using a flat piece of metal to kind of smooth these bits out. Instead of using the actual smooth tool, which kind of just makes massive blobs and then you make more work for yourself in the future. Now here I'm going to use my brush trim dynamic to kind of make that kind of, it's a weird shape, indent. You see it more when someone is to tense the bottom. You'd be able to see it a lot more. Just going to go back in and just kind of use this to do this. Alright, now I think I can use my smooth tool. Actually, I may just Dynamesh first. What Dynamesh setting is it on? Alright, it's still on the same. Really want to smooth out these legs a little bit. I'll deal with the middle of the bottom in a sec. There's a certain way I like to do it to make it look a bit more, to deal with it a better way with symmetry on inside Zbrush. Alright, we're kind of getting those forms out. I'm just going to go over and just smooth a little bit. Just get rid of all these lines and strange forms that it's created. Okay, now we can go back to our reference. Move this in a little bit. As you can see, some of the forms have come out a bit too much, so let's just go back and just kind of move them back to where they belong, according to my reference. Okay, that'll do for now. Maybe move this in a little bit more. Okay. The upper part is looking okay. Might just bring that out a little bit more. Generally, you don't see much of this, so I kind of want to just add some form here. There's some fat and skin, and just kind of, you know, make it look a bit less like she has no fat on her body. Let's go to the back view. Now we can sort out the general shape. So obviously, we definitely need to move this out a little bit more. We need to smooth out this whole area. Maybe use the brush trim dynamic to just kind of get rid of some of these blobby forms that we've created. Let's go over and do a big smooth here. I would like to go in with my brush clay buildup and just kind of show that that's the external oblique. Maybe get a bit of a hip in there with Alt and brush trim dynamic. Maybe I like it a little bit lower. We can have it about there though. Let's smooth this bit out. Maybe smooth this bit out a little bit more. go in and just kind of do this. I would like this to be a bit more kind of less strange looking. Oops. Okay, I may want to use my move tool to just kind of move this in place a little bit more, go back to brush trim. It's just about refining and just kind of working out what's right and what looks right, what looks wrong, where can you improve it. Looking at reference is probably the most important thing. Okay, now we can move this down a little bit more. The trapezius definitely needs to come down just a tiny bit more. Maybe about here. Yeah, that'll do for me. Brush clay build up again. Kind of bring that out. EMV, add a bit more of a curve to this, look at it from different angles. You don't want it so flat like you've just drawn muscles on a piece of paper, so I'm trying to show that. Alright, and now we need to kind of get rid of this, go to brush down standard and it's kind of like a shape almost like this. Make it a bit more connected. Okay. Kind of like that. Okay, let's go back. Let's just add an indent here for the hip. Okay, now for this area, to separate them, I'm actually going to turn symmetry off. Because you'll find that when you turn symmetry off, you're able to do this a lot better. I'm going to roughly estimate where the side is. I'm going to smooth that out. I'm just going to work on one side. As you can see, it's a lot easier. I'm going to just dynamesh. Alright, now I'll go with my brush trim dynamic. Kind of smooth it out a little bit. And a bit better, but we just want to kind of do this a little bit. Okay, that looks like it's wrapping around quite nicely. Maybe I can... That's too much. No, I like how it is. Alright, now if we go to mirror and weld, check if it's on the right side. Okay, it's not, so what we can do is deformation, mirror, mirror and weld. And now you can see it looks a bit better. Now all we need to do is just add a little bit more form here. Mirror and weld again. Don't like what's going on here. Gonna turn Symmetry back on now. Let's do that. Oops. BMV, let's look at the reference. Okay. Use this out a little bit, maybe use Alt. Just kind of round this out a little bit better. Use the reference. Here. Here. Maybe we can move this in a little bit, make it a bit more of a shorter curve. Okay, now we're going to sort out this part. Okay, so now we're going to be sorting out this area. So we'll get brush stem standard out, make a little kind of crease here. Okay, it's fine for me. Maybe make this a little bit smaller, make another crease here. Can I just get that crease in there? Okay, now we get, kind of looks like this. Okay, as we know, here's the hip. So let's just get that a bit more in here. Use brush trim dynamic to kind of make this angle. And Alt and in. Let me get this kind of an angle for the hip. And we can use the same technique here, using Alt to create the angle, and then using normal to kind of get some angles going and some form. Okay. As we know, this is the external oblique. Wondering if this is the right location for the hip. No. Let me just... It seems too high, which it is. So I'm just gonna make the external oblique a bit more around here. So there's the external oblique. There's the hip. Smooth that out a little bit. Now you can see that. Use brush clay buildup. Turn Symmetry off. I like to work from this side, so I'm just going to do that. Alright, so it's quite a big muscle here. They actually go this direction, but there's a muscle that comes round from the bottom of the hip and it goes like this. Let's cover some of the anatomy of the leg. This may be a longer video than usual, but we just want to create like a form here. Make sure we're in keeping with the reference that we're using. Just going to use Control and Shift to kind of isolate this half. Smooth it out. Use brush trim standard to kind of square it out a little bit, make it a bit more smoother, not so bumpy. Okay. Alright, I'm happy with that. And then you get the quadriceps, which I will fill in a second. This kind of goes like, it's kind of like a little shape like this. Just a little shape with the dam standard, and it connects from here and then it goes down here. For now I'm just trying to sort out the form for this muscle. So if you remember, this is the hip. Oh, something's gone a bit. No. Keep pressing buttons by mistake. Trying to get that hip in there somehow, just some definition. For reference and also for later. So this muscle that we did here, this muscle goes like this from here. And then you get all these muscles, the ribcage muscles. Just gonna kind of do this. And use my brush done standard just to make a little indent here, like, here's the hip. This is the hip. You know, for my own reference. So I remember also. Alright, let's go back to floor. Okay. Control and shift to show everything again. Alright, so you can see the difference between the two legs. Let's go to floor. I have a feeling that leg is a bit too out. Or maybe it's just about right. Ribcage needs moving out a little bit. This needs moving back. Just going back to the reference. Make sure I'm not moving this. Maybe I can do that. Sometimes just switching off symmetry and just looking at it from just a one-sided perspective can be useful sometimes. So now we're going to just do this. Turn down this a little bit. We get something like this. I want to create a bit more of a crease here. There we go, a bit smaller. Maybe use the pinch tool to kind of pinch it together a little bit. Okay, smooth this out a little bit. Smooth here. Brush trim dynamic. Don't want this line to be showing here. BMV, just move this up a little bit. Let's go to the side view. Let's just pull this back so I can see through it. Okay, we need like a little kind of bit here for where it kind of goes into the hip. Welcome to the end of this video. Here is where we're going to move on to part 2 of this series, where we're just refining the body and doing everything we can to make it look more accurate to the reference and to human anatomy. So because the video was so long, we have split it into 2 parts for you. See you in the next video, where we'll be just carrying on what we're doing in here, refining the body and going over some more anatomy and how it should look. Welcome to the end of this tutorial. Feel free to comment with feedback and suggestions below, and you can also comment on what you'd like to see us do in the future. Thank you, and goodbye.